Are we live right? No. Are we live right now?
We're live.
We're here.
We're live.
We're here.
We're in Westmoreland
slightly
room.
queer in West Orleans room.
Yeah.
Just slightly.
Slightly.
This isn't a gays only event, but you know. Anyways, we're here with Life After Youth, gentlemen. So can you introduce yourselves?
Well, I'm Alex.
And I'm Luke.
What do
you do?
Yeah. More importantly, what are your astrological signs?
I have no idea.
When's your birthday?
I'm a fire sign. I know that because
You're
someone told me that this
fire
weekend.
sign?
Yeah, which is like
I don't know anything about
So you're a
astrology.
flamer.
I'm flaming. And I play guitar in the band and sing
Okay.
sometimes.
I play drums in the band and don't sing most of the time.
But so that means you sing though.
Just when it's not recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we got a couple tracks with you on that.
What's your
Yeah.
vocal range?
My vocal range, I can hit a high C
Okay.
and a low G.
He's not quite
Minor.
at my level.
Oh god.
What's your vocal range, Will?
My vocal range is I can hit any note on the spectrum.
My vocal range is from Mariah Carey to George Strait.
Look, you know how he
My-
said you know
Mine's
how
from
he
Diana
said
Ross and Michael
you know how he
Jackson.
said knows he can hit any note on the range. You know how when your teacher's editing your paper when you're a kid, they put carrots where words should have been. We need to put a thinks there with a carrot underneath.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So
like-
Samari's just mad because he can't sing.
Can you
look,
sing?
I can't sing, and I know I can't sing. Like
Okay.
I can carry a better tune than Will.
I won't be honest with you. Like I haven't known you that long, but you just have such a beautiful timbre. Like I can't imagine that you can't sing.
You know, I've been told that I'm better in lower ranges, but I never
I
want to do
believe
that.
it.
So
You sound smoky, man. Like just when you talk, it's got soul.
Smokey Samari.
Smoky Samar.
Smokey the Bear was actually like one of my favorite things ever as a child. But we're not talking about Smokey. We're
So-
here talking about Life After Youth.
So like this type of conversation right here, is this the type of thing that made you guys want to start a band? Like what made you really want to do this?
So I'll give my thing. When I was in 4th grade, there was a show called Drake and Josh.
Oh god.
And Drake Bell got all the girls. He was the cool kid, and he played this off-brand red Stratocaster. And I was like, Mom, buy me a guitar. But she didn't. Took her a couple years. And then I started taking guitar lessons. Decided I hated it. And then picked it back up when I was in like 8th grade maybe. And now I'm in a band.
My first guitar was an off-brand red Stratocaster. Actually, yeah.
The Walmart one?
No, I'm left-handed. I gotta find it online.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's rough.
So Alex,
Somebody
what
you-
made you want to be a rock superstar?
Well, I come from more of a classic rock fandom than Luke does.
Alex has good taste in music.
I was a big fan
That's a big
of
difference.
bands like, Aerosmith was my favorite band until probably like 8th grade. I just told everyone that Aerosmith was my favorite band, and
Have you been on Rock and Roller Coaster before?
yes, I have. Actually, this past summer,
Okay, that's what's
I
up.
Wait, what's Rock and Roller Coaster?
Rock and Roller
It's the
Coaster.
ride
see?
at
Yeah, it's
Disney
at
World.
Disney World.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Disney nerd, so like. you know,
Really?
yeah. Oh, I'm the worst.
Dude,
Are you really?
I'm like the biggest Disney nerd. No, I'm joking.
Man.
like the movies or like
The movies, the theme parks.
Can you
I
sing
have
all the
mugs.
songs from all those movies?
in
I can
Lord.
identify them within seconds. It's
Yeah.
bad, y'all. Like it's legitimately bad.
Yeah. I cannot.
I can tell you what year it dropped just based off the beginning of the song. Like
Really?
it's terrible.
Man.
But yeah, so Rock and Roller Coaster.
Rock and Roller
Oh,
Coaster.
your
yeah,
favorite?
yeah.
Yeah.
I rode the roller coaster and I was
Yeah.
like, I gotta play music.
Which song did it play when it was on your roller coaster?
Oh man, it plays a lot of different ones at different times.
Oh, so you've rode post update because in the original version they played like one song
Oh,
on the
Yeah,
roller
the
coaster.
DLC roller coaster.
Yeah, the DLC. Rock
Yours
and
is
Roller
better in
Coaster.
a lot of ways. So I just got Sweet Emotion.
Oh, I mean, I probably got that one. I've ridden it many times. Each time that I've
And then
been.
you got Smash Mouth, obviously.
right, All Star.
Yeah.
Y'all ever listen to Bowling Pursuit before?
Okay.
Yeah, 1985.
Yeah. I've only ever listened to the Phineas and Ferb song extensively by them.
Because you're a Disney nerd.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like what's your favorite band now? You said from 8th grade it was Aerosmith, but after that, like what are you into these days?
I think now it's one of those things where I have a favorite band depending on the week or the time of year.
Mhm.
Like since it's been colder, I listen almost exclusively to Hiatus Coyote.
Oh my gosh, Building a Ladder is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, it's a great song. I've been listening to that Choose Your Weapon album on loop for
Molasses
a long time.
is better though. I think I love Building a Ladder so much because I didn't when I first listened to it, but the sample being on Free Smoke is probably why I started listening to that again.
I get so hyped every time that.
I've seen Napalm live before, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, something you need to do.
She's crazy looking.
I love their drummer Perrin Moss.
Yeah.
I'm just a big fan of that style, and I mean the song By Fire is my favorite song on that album. It's a very drummer centric song. I don't know. I mean we went through a period of time where I was listening to more heavy music, things like Periphery and other heavy metal stuff, and then Bring Me the Horizon was a big one for a little while, and then I don't know, it's kind of changed to a jazzier taste for me lately. But honestly, I can't say that I have a favorite band because that's not how I think anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that said, though, do you have a favorite drummer?
Also, no, because there's so many different styles.
You're right.
Like I would say, just like I said, Perrin Moss is one of my favorites for that jazzy hip hop style. But then there are so many rock drummers like Aaron Sterling. He's a session drummer. He's played with John Mayer and all sorts of different other people.
Mm-hmm.
He's like one of my favorite
Josh
drummers.
Freese.
Josh Freese is one of my favorite rock drummers. He's played with all sorts of people, and so. That's just another thing where I can't really say that I have a favorite because it's just a group of things that I really like.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying because like I'm really out there on my drummers. Like I'm a really, really, really big fan of Neil from Rush, as well as Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers, as we talked about before.
Yeah, you talked about that before.
But I also love Joey from Slipknot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Joey's really good. I like Joey a lot.
Yeah, and he's since left Slipknot, but yeah, he was Joey Jordison's a great drummer, and Max Weinberg is the drummer for them now, which is the son of the Bruce Springsteen drummer. That's pretty cool.
That's cool. The cool thing about like 2018 music though is like, at least for bands, like everybody listens to such a wide spread.
Right.
That when you're making music now, it's almost like.
Well, that's one of the beautiful things spread by there being so many platforms. Because before, when you were just buying CDs, the want to try stuff out really wasn't there.
Yeah, you didn't want to risk it and waste your money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
CDs were like $45 when they first used to drop. That's why stuff like Now That's What I Call Music got so popular, because it's all this different stuff and you can give it a
was like
try.
a playlist in like 2001.
Yeah, I mean, now it's the wonkiest playlist ever. I'll never forget, we had Now That's What I Call Music. No, but like we had Now That's What I Call Music, I want to say like 13 or like 15 or something like that, and it went from like Nelly Furtado to a Creed song.
Yeah,
and it's just like, why? Like,
I had one that was like Sugar We're Going Down and then like Toxic.
Exactly.
Like,
okay, but those two run together a little bit more. They're on the poppier side of stuff. You don't want to hear what's a Creed song? Higher, there we go. You don't want to. You want to hear, can you take me higher? Right after Promiscuous.
I do, but I mean
Promiscuous, and then
so you're saying you're trying to go from higher to Promiscuous?
Because I mean Creed is one of the greatest bands of all time. Am I wrong?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, our favorite band is Creed.
Only
yeah,
better.
I'm sorry, I skipped over that. Creed, number one band.
I mean, but the only band better than them is Nickelback. So
yeah. I've heard that a Nickelback Creed tour is coming up, and that's gonna be a rough one.
My favorite thing Nickelback has ever given us is there's this vine from the song Photograph, and it's just him saying, "Look at this graph," and then like Sharty,
look at this graph. On a more serious note, though, what are some bands that you would actually say are like musical inspirations for you? Some of your favorite bands that have kind of influenced the music that you make.
Honestly, me and Alex have like pretty different backgrounds. Like for me, my biggest musical inspiration for like the last like year, don't laugh at me, has straight up been Mariah Carey. Like I've been listening to so much like just like diva kind of music, like Whitney Houston and like even like Ariana Grande. Just like melodies, man.
That's my type of shit.
They're sick, honestly. And then like that plus bands like Collective Soul and Smashing Pumpkins, that kind of like that's what my parents were listening to when I was younger. Really? So I'm like a diva metalhead a little bit, or a diva grunge kid.
I mean, but you like when you look at bands like the 1975 and the Neighborhood and Alt J, that's the kind of stuff they listen to too.
Yeah.
Because when you're backstage, you don't want to hear stuff that sounds like you. You want to get used to like music that you like.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Now it's interesting seeing the way that it gets expressed onto your tracks, but like. but like the large part, you're never gonna find an artist who listens to people who sound like them. Because if they want to hear somebody sound like them, they listen to their own music.
Yeah, and that's like a dangerous thing too, to like listen to bands that just sound like you, because then you're just making like the same thing over and over again. You're just getting lost in that little niche group.
Well, I can kind of hear, like you were talking about the diva music. I can kind of hear the influence almost in your vocals on Drag You Down.
Dude, honestly, like I'm such a diva. Like I hate to
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. We've got a couple songs that are about to drop with some little diva moments in them, but I'm proud of them.
It's, I mean, listening to Drag You Down, like that's definitely one thing I noticed. The vocals are they're very expressive, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, because like honestly, just like my philosophy on that is like I'm not the best singer in the world, and like I think as literally almost any singer, there's always going to be somebody else that's better than you, somebody else that's stronger, whatever. But I think like what no one else has is like your individuality in your voice. So like I think me and Alex talk about this a lot, but with sounds in general, but especially vocals, it's like let's find something that's like character first, like memorable first, and then let's perform it well.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it though, that's like the crux of a lot of unique. Like you think of people like Kurt Cobain and Anthony from the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Morrissey. Those aren't just like angelic voices, but they stand out. Like Kurt sounds like he's gargling glass at his best, if we're really truthful and honest. But like what strikes you about Nirvana is emotion, or just like when you're listening to a Red Hot Chili Pepper song, like Anthony just it's a bouncing presence. Like you feel it. He could be talking about the most depressing thing ever. He could be talking about cancer, but like you think of a California sunset inside of a drop top Cadillac or something.
And both of those dudes will like go down as like some of the best rock singers ever,
exactly,
you know? Yeah.
And so kind of talking about this whole like sound that you've created, do you think naming your band Life After Youth had anything to do with the sound you were going for, or was that more just a name you guys liked?
I think it was kind of the other way around. We spent like the entirety of college like writing music, and when we like the very first song we had a breakdown in it, like because we just got together. We were like, Alex was like, hey, you have a recording setup? And I was like, yeah, let's try something. And like the first thing we did was like this literal like and it was like all chuggy and like heavy, and we just like spent a long time figuring out what we sounded like. And like obviously like we're best friends, and we went through a lot during that time, and I don't know, like our music was kind of like parallel to us like maturing and growing up, and there was this big growth in that. And then the whole Life After Youth thing, like we kind of have this in our lyrics and like musical influences too, but a lot of the messages of our song are like about letting go of something that you used to have, like growing, whether it be like just growing up in general,
letting go of your
like,
youth.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all thematic, like you don't have that anymore.
I think another big part of the name is another theme where people associate kids with having all these dreams, and then you hear about people, you know, they just say just grow up, and then you just kind of lose sight of that dream. And especially for me, but we would talk about this during college when we were writing all these songs, and this is kind of how the name came about, was that we were kind of doing these to cope with the possibility of maybe ever giving up our dream, because we were in college, and I was personally seeing people my age just moving forward with their life, and I remember what they used to tell me they wanted to do, and it's not what they're doing now. And I mean, I understand that situations change, but we also see this happen all the time, of just, you know, okay, you've grown up, you can let go of that dream now, just, you know, kind of get a normal life. And so that was just something that, like, in the end, just writing these songs still act as a way to cope with growing up and just living life.
And like youth can be a lot of things. Like in our music, like sometimes Life After Youth could be like life after that relationship, or life after that like nostalgic kind of, like a lot of our songs, honestly, when I like picture them having been written, or like where I like see them being played is in this like a car, you know, driving on the highway late at night.
No, the name, it's indicative. It's summer. And like there was a poet, and I don't even remember who it was, but he was doing an open mic about how like when he thinks of stuff like that, it's tied to summer. Like the whole idea is that like when you're in that very moment right there, that epitomizes your youth, not having anywhere to be, doing whatever you can to occupy yourself. So I get that idea
for sure. Yeah,
and that's definitely kind of like and that definitely makes sense. Like, I think of the type of music that you guys make, which is kind of like a combination shoegaze, dream pop, grunge type of, kind of a mixture. Almost, you were talking about the styles that you made when you were younger, which you were talking about having breakdowns and probably a little bit more rebellious since you were a little bit younger, and then now you've made it to this point where you're out of college and you're reflecting. And that's the kind of thing that I really think of whenever I'm listening to that type of music, not just with your music, but with any type of band from that lane, like Beach House, 1975, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And so, that's basically the main reason you guys wanted to go in that sound direction?
You know, I don't know if that's the main reason we wanted. I think for us it was just kind of like we tried a bunch of different styles, and then we found like our natural tendencies were sort of like towards these kinds of melodies, these kinds of sounds. And then I also kind of think like there's always like a sound that kind of marks eras, and like, you know, in Nirvana era it was like a Big Muff and a guitar and a Marshall amp. Like, I think that this is kind of where rock music is at right now, and where Drag You Down is kind of like an edible song, you know, like people are going to be able to relate to it because it sounds like more like what else is out there.
It sounds contemporary.
Yeah, we're gonna move in a couple different directions here coming up, but yeah, the sound is really just kind of an extension of what we're into and what we naturally just kind of came up with.
Would you consider yourself a rock band?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I've got a question.
Yeah.
So you talked about progressions and parallels, but I feel like it's counterproductive to discuss y'all's journey without knowing where it started. So where did, not just the band, but like y'all's friendship, how did that happen?
That all started in UT Austin, and it's pretty funny to tell it from my point of view because I was the good student in this. We both were taking a computer science class, but we didn't share the same period. But we met in a TA session, and the essence of it was that I was doing my work and he was not.
Yeah. Well, the reason we talked was because we both had band shirts on, right? Like you had a...
Yeah, but then you were also just helpless, and you asked me for some help.
More importantly, though, what were the shirts?
I'm trying to remember, what's the band
I was probably wearing the Foxy Shazam.
Foxy Shazam, yeah, I saw it and I was like, this kid's cool. And then I realized he knew what was going on in the class, and I was like, you trying to hang out and help me with my homework?
Yeah. And that was how it started.
Yeah.
It was him asking for help on computer science homework, and then we started talking about music, and then it took probably a month or two of just talking about it before then we just got together and started.
Yeah. It's funny because like when I met you, I was like in the middle of like my first real breakup and like all this like transitional stuff. And like it was wild though. I met him at a really weird time, and then he came over. Like I had the smallest like apartment ever. Like literally, it's like y'all can't see this room, but it's a pretty small room. Like it was basically the size of this room. And he came over with this whole drum kit, and I had like an amp and a mic and everything all set up.
Let's back this up though, because he just told me that he had a home studio set up.
Yeah.
and then I should bring my drums over to play.
His home was the size of a studio.
Yeah.
Home studio.
and then we came. I got in there and I was
exactly.
And I was like sitting on a couch trying to make room for the drums. But we just started.
Fun,
There's this podcast I listen to named The Art of Wrestling with Colt Cabana, and he when he does his intro, he's like, and we're live in my studio apartment in Chicago. That's what that situation was. You didn't let him finish the sentence.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He just
apartment. Yeah.
So that's kind of how you guys got together, and we've talked about how you met. We've talked about how you decided to form a band. We've talked about the progression of your music a little bit. But where do you see yourselves, like, okay, so if you were to sit down and just think about, like, 3 years from now as a band, where would you see yourselves, like, being? Would you see yourselves being, like, mega huge contemporary, like an underground type of following? Like, where do you see yourselves popularity-wise? As well as artistically,
as far as, like, popularity, I just, like, this is so cheesy, but I just want to, like, make enough money to, like, live off this, you know? Mm-hmm. But as far as like where we see ourselves as like a band, a big thing for me is I look out in especially rock music, but just music in general. There's like a lot of famous people that don't really stand for anything. There's a lot of like I don't know, shallow artistry going on, and it's probably just me being like, old musical's better, you know. But back in the day, I felt like you look at all these like classic rock bands, you look at all these pop artists from like, you know, age past, and like everybody like meant something, you know what I mean? And for me at least, like I want to get into culture and like be like, you know, the band that everybody knows what these guys stand for. Everybody knows that like Life After Youth came in and shook everything up.
Yeah,
but isn't there a strange duality with that? Because I mean, like, it's funny that it happens like this, but 'tis the plight of man, as philosophers would say. Like, a lot of bands that go out and stand for something, they often get labeled as fake deep.
Yeah.
So like, finding the balance between that is gonna be it's difficult.
Yeah, 100%. But honestly, I'd love to get labeled as fake and deep if we're being authentic. Then just go out and make. There's a lot of bands that make their living like following the trend. Like, no offense to anybody. If Fall Out Boy, they suck now, man.
Yeah.
It's because like they started out doing one thing and they've ended up being like an Imagine Dragons cover band or something. You know what I mean?
Imagine Dragons.
That's another band. They did sound like that before Radioactive was hot.
Yeah, no, Radioactive was a sick song though.
But their most recent album is just,
and like that Thunder song.
Yeah,
like I feel like
that's tragic. You know how they say there's Oscar bait movies? That's an Apple commercial bait song.
Yeah, it is 100%.
That sounds like a song they're like, we want this in Apple.
But that's a band that like, you remember when the whole folk rock thing was hot? Like they dropped a folk rock song, they did a dubstep song. Yeah. Now they're doing the whole like, let's sample a female voice song. And
Linkin Park, before Chester passed away, obviously, rest in peace. But they were also kind of going in that direction.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the whole.
Did they ever have a unique song? Like,
I mean, they kind of defined.
They started out as like the new like, this is what alt rock is.
Yeah, they kind of defined what alt rock is.
I would not be that dude, but like their actual clerical genre was nu metal, and like if you like really got into that,
bro, I was just about to say that, but I didn't want to sound pretentious.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you listen to other nu metal stuff, you're like, dang, Linkin Park really got rich off these guys.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
And that's not me bashing; they're one of my favorite bands ever. But like realistically speaking, like yeah.
But so that's kind of. What I'm saying from you guys don't want to be a type of band who sells out and then does things like Fall Out Boy or Imagine Dragons does.
What you talking about? The second they get hot, they're gonna be a Walk the Moon cover band.
Oh yeah. Shut up and dance. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So
And the Sun was good though. Like, let's not act like that wasn't a great song.
I think one thing for us though is like we genuinely love good pop songs.
Right.
Like I don't think there's anything wrong with a band making good pop music. I think what there is a problem with is like, I know this first track that we put out, like we've gotten compared to the 1975 lot, and that's like super flattering. But what I hate is like the 1975 got hot, and then there's 50,000 bands that sound like the 1975. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like this happened like after Panic at the Disco got big, and this happened after Nirvana got big. Like all these bands, you know.
Well, here's the funny thing about that. I think the bands, which this one hasn't really found its name that's caught popular yet, which we're lucky we're still at that point, because once it does, it's gonna be even worse than this. But once a name's attributed to it, there's bands who they'll be one thing, and then they'll hear from an A&R, hey, you need to sound more like. That's what happened with Soundgarden. They wanted to be a metal band.
Yeah.
And they were like, y'all sound like grunge. Let's throw some chorus pedals and a bit more fuzz on there.
Yeah.
That brings up kind of another thing too. Kind of to go along with the whole future for the band thing. Would you ever see yourself signing with a label?
Oh, that's tricky. Because I went to college thinking, like, I'm going to start a label, and it's going to be this new model of blah, 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 and because I, like, traditionally, like, Alex's cousin is in a band called Oh Sleeper. They're, like, a metal band out of Fort Worth, and they've done, like, just really cool things for Texas and just that whole scene, but they had, like, articles written about them because they were on tour, and, like, collectively, 5 guys in a band were making, like, $6 a date, and, like, just ridiculous things. So I've always been very much, like, fight the man, no labels, blah, blah, blah. But now that we're, like, in here doing all this stuff and, like, working, it's like, we could use some help.
It's definitely a lot. And that's the type of thing that I almost feel like it's trendy at this point in time. And For me, as somebody who listens to a lot of hip hop music,
to be independent,
you see it a lot in hip hop. It's a really big thing right now.
I mean, but even with that said, we are, especially in hip hop, we're in the age of the distribution deal where you're not signed to them. However, you have a song that you want to drop.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And it could be through.
But a big thing is being quote unquote independent.
Yeah.
But that's the thing though in hip hop, which resident hip hop head here. A big thing about that though is the label of being independent, because you remember Vic Mensa.
It's all about the label.
Yeah, it's like a scene now.
I was about to say Vic Mensa in the what you call it, the XXL Cypher said something. I made it here by myself. While other rappers label probably paid for the spot. I don't know, maybe not. Could have been genuine. That's more or less to put it down. Like, and they don't call people sellouts for getting record labels and record label contracts in rock music anymore. Thankfully, but it happens. But it's not like the days of grunge music where they're like, you changed because you signed.
Well, it's also a little bit different in rock music though now, because rock music was kind of at the forefront. I mean, in the 90s and early 2000s and things like that. And now rock music is kind of almost a more, I don't want to say niche thing.
No, dude, rock is so just dumbed down.
It's just
now.
not nearly as popular.
Hip hop is rock now.
Yeah.
100%. All the aggression, all the individuality that used to exist in rock music, it's gone. That's hip hop.
I actually wrote an article about that about 2 years ago, coming up now. Jesus, that was a long time ago. About how hip hop artists are the new rock stars, because there is that need to want to pave a way. Yes, I used to freelance.
Well, and you kind of look at hip hop artists now. Me and Alex were talking about this before this interview, talking about the Migos and Lil Yachty making long ass albums.
Hip hop is the new rock and roll.
Hi, that was our production manager, the mayor of Radio Show City, William Westmoreland.
But they're making these long ass albums now because their label is telling them, in the age of streaming, if you make a 24-track album and somebody listens to your whole album, you get 2 album sales. And it's not really as prevalent in rock music now, I think, because people are not quite as into rock. Not as many people listen to rock as they do to hip-hop.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's all a cyclical, self-feeding thing where how much stuff in rock music can you say is truly unique? Because everything in rock sounds like something. And not to say that's not the case with rap, but there's a little bit more individual. It's harder to sell yourself as a band than it is
to
and
here's the thing. I think this kind of goes into moving forward as a band too, but I think 2018 rock that's exactly right. There's so many bands that sound like each other. You're this fits into this box. And then rappers are the ones where it's that person sounds like this. That person sounds like they do things this way.
That person's inventing their sound.
Yeah, right. And even rap groups have it easier than rock bands do. We've seen Brockhampton take off and be such a commercial success because they could individually identify. The medium is more conducive to setting out because your lyrics, that's you, as opposed to a rock band you. How many rock lead guitars can we really name this day?
2018, 0.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And
there's unless you're into metal, technical kind of stuff.
And there's some alternative bands where you can't do they even have one? Because I know 21 Pilots doesn't have a lead guitar.
Yeah.
It's
or
the only thing we know, the only member of Tame Impala most people can name is Kevin Parker.
100%.
Well, I listen to if we're gonna be technical, Kevin Parker is Tame Impala, and Pond is his band.
Right. Oh, sorry. Music snob.
Just say
William Bradley Walensky coming in.
So, moving past that a little bit, because there are a couple of other things that we'd kind of like to ask you about. Are you guys going to be dropping an album soon? Is there going to be an album coming out soon that we can have a little bit more of your music out for people to listen to?
So I was actually just about to add on to what we were about to say. No, there won't be an album. But the reason for that, and this kind of goes along with what we were just saying, is I think a big part of why rap is hitting off so much more than rock right now is because in 2018 things move a lot faster.
Yes, the
people's
singles.
attention goes off of you so quick, and just straight up, it is faster to make a rap song than it is to make a rock song. Because with rock, you got to sit down and record all this and this and this. Rap, usually, the only thing you're actually having to go into a studio to record is your voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kids can make straight up bangers the guy you just showed me
Miles
in their room. Yeah. and you've got it done, and then you just go somewhere.
And once again, that speaks to the nature of the art, because like usually by the time lyrics are being put together, that instrumental's been made for months.
Yeah,
like it's very rare you see a rapper or a producer go into the studio and be like, "Yo, we're making a beat right now, let's go with it." Like,
yeah,
the only people really doing that are Run the Jewels, and they give us like a whole year between albums.
Yeah,
so.
and that's the thing too. Like, one is not more like important or artistic than the other. It's just like rock music takes longer.
And when you look at this day and age, like you said, it's a lot. Things are coming a lot faster. Like in hip hop music, a year between an album is a long time.
Yeah, but for
you
rock bands,
that's quick turnaround.
I was about to say, when's like realistically speaking, when's the last time we've heard from Two Door Cinema Club? Like I know like
they're around, but like they've been gone too long.
Yeah,
you know? And that's like it used to be that like TV was the thing. And then YouTube was the thing, and now honestly, like Instagram videos are the thing.
Yeah.
Like it's just getting shorter and
posting
shorter
snippets is a huge thing.
Yeah, like 15 seconds is like a big deal now.
Yeah, and also, but here's another thing that I will give rock credit to. You don't hear people going, well, blah, blah, blah is falling off. That's a huge thing in rap music.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very big thing. Someone can do one bad verse and be like, oh, snap. ASAP Twitty's falling off already.
To be completely fair, we did kind of just talk about bands falling off in rock music.
Yeah, but that's not as big of a cultural thing.
In hip hop.
It does happen.
Yeah, it happens so much faster. You're allotted more time due to the nature and the new, like so many little things you don't even consider going to rock music. Because just recording in general, there's 16 versions of every song you like.
Yeah.
Like there's not just the one version. It's so rare that someone goes into a recording studio and they make the one version of the song and they're like, that's that.
Yeah. And another thing is too, like rappers like come and go quick. Like people that drop like a hit song, like there's like never.
A lot of one-hit wonders.
There's so many more. Like, there's way more. I feel like in rap in 2018. Anyway,
if you're just a casual hip hop listener, you might know who Lil Pump is from Gucci Gang, but you're not gonna know any other Lil Pump song.
And I'm gonna be honest, like, I don't think anyone's gonna know who Lil Pump is in a year and a half.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's definitely a bigger thing in rap music than it is.
By the way, that's not legally binding. Pump is like the biggest rapper in the game. Don't come at our necks.
Yeah.
What?
My bad, Pump.
So what do you think gives you? What do you think gives you staying power as an artist in 2018?
Ooh, what do you think, Alex?
I think the fact that we don't peg ourselves as one genre whenever we're writing. We just write because we listen to such a variety of music. We think about writing just whatever comes to us, and I think that kind of thing, especially for in the rock world, it helps you have staying power because you have to do something new. You have to be fresh, and that's one of the reasons why I think hip hop artists come and go so quickly, because that whole beat making culture is there, and so there's like the same group of people who are making these beats, and then they're kind of imitating each other a little bit, and then they sell these beats to the rappers, and then they get a hit. But then it kind of reminded people of this other hit that they heard from a different rapper, and then they just kind of run together. So I think staying power is equivalent to being just having something really unique, having something, like we said, standing for something, having a unique image, and having a variety with the way that you go about it. Just making art, not worrying about we make pop rock music.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, like at least for me, like honesty is like a big thing in 2018. Like for our band, like making sure every word means something.
Right.
Or like not even means something, but like every word's something you're convicted of. You know what I mean? Because like if you're not standing for what you're singing, if you're not standing for like what your band's putting out, I think people are gonna pick up on that and be like,
and it's so much easier to figure it. Like that's the beauty of what 2018 music is, because like you can hear artists say something and immediately like confront them about it on Twitter. Right. Trolls are at your doorstep within seconds of a song being released.
That's
You have 16 memes, a bunch of GIFs, and everything out like the second it happens. Yeah. The internet's quick these days.
But that's good too, you know, like being able to like get in contact with people that fast, being able to have your stuff like.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing if you're building a fan base, but it can also be very daunting when you attract hate.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, very much so. Because, like, it's one thing back in the old days of, like, studios when you had the obscenity era, as they call it, where Ozzy bites the head off a bat and, like, PETA's individually handwriting him letters. But, like, now there's 16 people with video and they've quote-tweeted him and like, he's a monster, don't go to his shows anymore.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. So like, Alex, you're talking a lot about authenticity with the music, and both of you talking about authenticity and making sure that your music means something and has staying power. Would you say that the live show is a big part of that?
Oh yeah,
most definitely.
Yeah. Do you think that there's like certain things that you can do performing live to get the music you make to resonate with people more?
Dude, I actually love this question because like you look at bands like the rock bands of 2018, like not that there's anything wrong with this, but if you watch them perform live, like they all just look like kind of the same, and it's kind of this like I don't know, uncommitted, real like
there's not much interaction with crowds from what
there's not a lot of energy. That's my thing.
Right.
Like you find in like I love like really aggressive, energetic performances. People like Tyler the Creator, like he's my hero right now. Like him live is just incredible. But I think that's like what the difference is, you know?
I mean, but a good stage show is hard to come by in music in general.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, honestly, but that does a lot to say to what you are as artists, because 21 Pilots live shows what made me come around about them, because I was a basher and detractor for the longest. But seeing them, it was a show on the channel they call it, I think it's Palladia now or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was watching them perform that made me understand, like, oh, this is what people like about it, because it felt real and organic, and like they had their thing. The one dude paints himself black from the neck down, and like, you know, yeah.
I think what you just said about being real and organic is one of the ways that separates the people who the bands especially that last versus the people who get labeled as jumping on a bandwagon. Because when you watch the guys that started the trend, or they might not even be the people who first did it, but they did it with such conviction, they did it with such authenticity that it looks like it's part of their DNA, and so people buy into that. But when people are just kind of changing their wardrobe to fit what they see other bands are doing or what's hot right now, then there's always a little bit of this non-authenticity.
It's like conformity.
You can sense that they're not totally comfortable with who they are right there, because maybe their A&R told them that they need to try something different, but they just don't see. There's always something, and people can kind of sense when they're not being themselves quite, and so people, and then they just like, okay, these people are following.
Oh yeah, and with any artist, there's songs that's a radio hit that they refuse to play live because they don't like the way that it like the recording conditions. A$AP Rocky doesn't play Problems no more, right?
Right.
And then Radiohead refuses to play Creep under any circumstances. The Red Hot Chili Peppers play nothing off 1 Hot Minute.
Schoolboy Q won't play Studio.
Exactly.
Because they're acknowledging that that's not who they are anymore.
Yeah.
And so then that gives them that authenticity, because they're like, yeah, this worked for us at the moment, but that's not who we are, so we're not going to present that to you. And that's what people buy into, definitely.
Do you think, as rock bands, and you talked a lot about their energy not being as good in live shows, do you think it would help if some of the bigger bands played in smaller venues? Like
that's definitely part of it, is like there's like a different energy between like a club and an arena show.
Yeah.
But I think that's true enough, but like as a performer, like it's your like you have to be committed enough to do that same show in an arena.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I love the 1975, but if you watch, like if they had just released like a live album with like videos and everything, and we saw them in Austin a while ago, but like if you watch that band, like it's like Matty Healy and the band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like Matty Healy's the front man, so he's expressive, and everyone else is just kind of
there,
bow-legged, playing guitars or like looking down.
No, trust me, I've experienced it before.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is like,
but they were really good though.
They're incredible.
Yeah,
for sure. They're so good. But like every other band that's out right now looks like that. Maybe they have a quirky frontman. Everybody else is just kind of going through the motions. But it's also like, not to like bash this or anything, but there's like a lack of
stage presence.
There's like a lack of alpha dog, like we own this stage kind of stuff happening. Whereas like that used to be the thing.
I think it got lost in translation, because there was for a while there was the era of the flamboyant lead guitar singer combo, where you had an era where Axl Rose and Slash could occupy the same space, or Anthony and Flea, or David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen. That when rock became more, hey, we're steering away from the femininity stuff and it has to be more manly, people became dull and they suppressed emotion at the expense of looking quote unquote hard or tough.
That I think that the stage presence that existed in what we now call classic rock, but just mainstream rock for a long time, shifted like in the 80s with like punk and heavy metal rising up and hardcore music. And I think that's where that is now, because I love going to metal shows because they're so involved.
There's so much fun, for real.
So much fun. The crowd's having fun. They're talking and jumping into the crowd, and basically, I've seen rappers and hardcore metal bands put on the best shows because they have so much energy and so much stage presence. And then for some reason, right now, rock bands that are in the mainstream are being so standoffish and friendly and just playing their instruments and hoping that people like it. And I think it's time for that to change.
You get the occasional wild card like Capital Cities coming up with a little dance that they do live, cool. And you know, there's a few saving graces. However, I will say that there is a dullness. I forgot what the name of this band was that opened up for Chicano Batman a few months ago. But these guys, they have like a radio hit and everything, and most of the fans were there for them. And I was watching, I'm like, you couldn't tell they were the more popular ones. Like, it made sense that they were the openers because they had no stage presence. Yeah. Like, clearly, I don't remember their name and they had a radio hit.
Yeah, for real. And I think that's, like, a big distinction for us, too, is, like, we're only a rock band, I think, in spirit.
Exactly, by name. Well, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself.
Right, because,
realistically speaking.
Especially because, like, right now, rock music is, like, what we've been talking about, like, it's kind of generic, it's kind of dull. Like, we want to be in that cultural affecting pop arena, but
and not to say that it'll happen, but there may come a day where you're like, do I really like? You might want to decide that life after youth the band is still a thing, but you might decide you rap one day.
Yeah,
like you might find out that rapping is your thing. You want to rap over these sick rock instrumentals.
Yeah,
and that might be y'all. So like, not pigeonholing yourself early. Yeah. You know, that'd be a great thing to not do.
Yeah. And I think what Luke just said is also something important to note, is that we really do consider ourselves more of just a rock / wanting to be grunge spirit, but we're not claiming that, right, especially right out the gate, that we make songs that sound like Nirvana or anything like that. We're definitely
Drag You Down is like a pop song. 100%. It's a pop song with guitars in it, you know.
But all we're trying to say is that we're looking at that spirit that we're talking about, that we miss about rock music, and that's what we aspire to bring back to music.
Call y'all's EP Rose-Colored Glasses. Y'all can have that one.
Yeah, I feel like
appreciate it.
I feel like being a 2-person band is also really good for what you're trying to do, because you think of a lot of these bands, they have to get rid of people when they want to change their sound, because you've got multiple guitarists, you've got somebody drumming, you have a singer, you know, you have to change things if you want to go from like making pop songs to rapping over rock beats, you know. But you're two friends, you're two people who have done a lot of work together, and so I feel like that really helps you a lot. Do you think that also helps on stage for you guys, having more energy since it's only 2 of you, as opposed to like 6?
So I came up like through high school basically playing in like pop punk bands and like just like hard bands. Mm-hmm. We sounded terrible, but
bunch of Asking Alexandria clones.
Yeah, a little bit like that. But the like fun part of it was like having like a stage where people were standing there watching you just like run around and jump and all this stuff. And I think having like just like physically like having 2 people gives you room, you know? Like we have room to interact with each other, the crowd, like room to move. And we also just really like the aesthetic of it, like 2 dudes.
But that does present logistical challenges. Like, so how does the in-house process of recording a live after you song works? Because there's no standing bassist or...
Bro, that's just us. We play all the other stuff and we figure it out.
Yeah, we all play. We both play.
All of us.
All of us.
Well, we have multiple personalities.
All 2 of us.
So. Y'all outsource musicians. Y'all got session folks that come through.
Yeah.
Ghost players.
Yeah, exactly.
Ghost players.
Are y'all open to that though? Inviting out session musicians to work with y'all?
If it's something we can't play, yeah. But like honestly, like that would be like string players. You know, maybe like a choir someday would be cool.
I mean, you know, who knows? You might get into a phase where you like really feeling slap pop on bass, and that just might not be your thing.
I don't know. I think one of us could figure it out. Honestly, we're super into like something like we talked about this with like vocals is like it's better to have character than be real good. Like if me and Alex try to play slap bass, it's not going to sound like Victor Wooten, you know, but it will sound like Life After Youth playing slap bass.
Right. Yeah, I was going to bring that up earlier, which is like I think we all have the idea of what is traditionally good But just like we talked about the authenticity of everything, it's just like that uniqueness. And whenever we make a song, if it's got a certain flavor to it, what's cool about it is that we heard a song that we liked or a genre that we like, and then we ended up making our version of it because honestly we're not really good enough to just be like we're not session musicians, so we can't just be like, oh yeah, we get called to play this kind of music all the time so we can replicate it perfectly. But then when we just kind of like misremember a part of the music or something, but then still have that spirit of what we liked about it, then we end up making our own version of it, and it comes out a little unique, and it's cool.
I think that's what like Tyler the Creator was like built on. Like you go back and listen to like Wolf and like all those early albums, like they don't sound that good, but they sound like Tyler the Creator.
Yes.
And like that's sick. You know?
Cherry Bomb. I think Flower Boy might be Tyler the Creator, or it probably is Tyler the Creator's best album, but musically, when you listen to Cherry Bomb, that is the purest form of Tyler the Creator.
Oh, 100%. There's so many like chords and like all this like jazz and like all that soul music he's into, and like
the pitched down vocals and a lot of parts of it.
Yeah, for real.
So, kind of just to kind of like wrap things up a little bit, and this whole live show topic specifically, is there an ideal atmosphere that you would like to play in? Like maybe a place you'd like to play, or like the look of your show, things like that?
I think it's probably different for us, but for me, like, y'all just YouTube like 90s hardcore show, and like there's this whole idea of like having like the three dudes and like there's like no speakers really, it's just really loud and grungy, and there's like a bunch of people surrounding you, and like I don't know, like a real claustrophobic kind of like everybody packed into this room to just jam out. Like I'm into that whole scene, but I'm not sure that super exists.
That really was an era in rock, because y'all know a lot about the origins of Sublime or no?
Nah, hit me up.
Like Sublime, they used to just throw, the way Sublime got popular in Long Beach was just inviting people to Brad's parents' house. Like literally they'd be like, hey, we're doing a rock show in our parents' house in like 30 minutes while they're at the skate park, and then a bunch of people show up.
Yeah. And
they just ride around Long Beach getting people to come to the house.
That's cool.
And they'd get all these people, and like they started in the garage, and they had to move into the physical house itself. And they moved into the backyard, and from the backyard they moved to the skate park, and like it was pure and organic, because it's.
And I feel like that's how like hip hop has become. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like at least like you want to talk about like energy in a crowd. There's like 20 times the energy.
Oh yeah, and there's stories like
Rockhampton shows.
Denzel Curry.
Travis Scott throwing a whole show inside of the green room when only 13 people showed up.
Man, he is such a good performer, like for real. That's the kind of energy I'm talking about. It's
He brings the energy.
It's one of those shows that you go to and you're like, I might die tonight, but that's okay. Exactly.
That's what we're trying to do. Just make you think you might die tonight and listen to some podcasts.
And is that the same for both of you? Like, is that the same thing you think of, Alex, or is your ideal show a little bit different than Luke's?
Alex just wants a cuddle party.
Alex wants a bunch of chicks.
I just want to be playing on a float in the middle of the ocean. No.
Hey, make that happen. Sponsored by Red Bull.
That's a music video. Sponsored by Red Bull.
Sponsored by Red Bull.
But y'all gotta jump out of the ocean. Yeah, y'all gotta jump out the stratosphere first, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not the exact same as his, but I still like the idea of something that's big enough to have a lot of people there. But I also really like the idea of being able to play a show where the venue fit a lot of people, but then there are way too many people there, and so then
fire hazards are a big thing. For us.
And it's a matter of realism. Like everybody wants to play Shea Stadium or the Tokyo Dome when they see cool stuff like that, but like really, it doesn't fit everyone's aesthetic.
Yeah,
I just love the idea of being in like this thing that's this venue that's made for music, not necessarily just a bar, but I mean bars are cool, but just something that's like a medium size that's way overpacked, so that all these crazy things are happening and they're coming up on stage and stuff. I love that. I love that aesthetic, and I love that kind of energy at a show. So I would love to play shows like that.
So I got one last question, a stretch goal question of sorts. Life After Youth hits it big. The folks in Australia hear you. You get invited out to Triple J to do like a version. What are you covering?
Oh man.
This is literally the most offbeat question for us, because we never talk about covering a song.
Exactly.
This is actually super funny, because like everybody's always like, are you guys gonna cover anything? We're like, no. But if that happened,
You can give individual answers.
I almost guarantee that he's about to say something about Mariah Carey.
No, I'm not.
Hey man, all I want for Christmas is you would be a
baby doll. Just kidding.
We belong together with a guitar solo though.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
No, okay, so this is not the answer to the question, but did y'all see Paramore cover Passion Fruit?
Of course.
That was the sickest thing.
I love everything Paramore.
Me too.
I love everything Passion Fruit.
Yeah.
Passion Fruit is an amazing song. I mean, like, when you get into, like, the deep dance hall stuff, it's not the greatest, but it's still an amazing song.
Yeah. That song's
As somebody who doesn't listen to dance hall, I like it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't either.
I listen to dance hall and I love Passion Fruit.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and take this one. I know that I kind of introduced Luke to this album, but it's been big in our, like, songwriting or just trying to learn about stuff. But I would love to bring a song from Fleetwood Mac's Rumors.
Yes.
I would love to do, like, a cool version of Dreams, maybe, or,
That's my answer.
Or Go Your Way. Yeah. I don't know. I just love that album so much, and we both do. And it's hard to say right off the top of my head what we would cover, but I could picture us trying to pull a song off of that album
or Passion Fruit,
Passion Fruit, or Toxic.
Honestly, that's not that too far outside of y'all's element though, because I could easily hear a 1975 or neighborhood version of Passion Fruit.
Yeah.
So that's not too far out y'all's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like we've learned a lot about you guys. I mean, me and Samari, we've met you, but I feel like we actually know you, at least musically, like, pretty well now, which is really great.
So, with that said, where can we find y'all on social media?
You go ahead.
Okay. At life_after_youth on Instagram. I don't know what our Facebook is though, because I never look at it.
It's just like,
nobody get on Facebook no more.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like 45.
For 45 and up crowd.
I don't know what the URL is. I'm sure it's like facebook.com/life.
Just look up Life After Youth. It's not the album though. It's the band.
Well, look us up on Spotify, especially because we're trying to get on some playlists right now.
Also on Tidal and Apple Music.
And Tidal. Yeah, whoever wants to be our first Tidal listener, look us up on Tidal.
I told you I already offered to just put it on loop on my computer at home. Just tell me when.
Our one Tidal listener.
Yeah. We're huge.
Do you have any type of message that you want to tell the listeners? You don't have to have anything. But
what do we got? Say? Genres are dead. Life After Youth is gonna take over the world.
I think we can cut here. Keep on rocking in the free world and doot the loot.
Sounds good to me.
Doot.
Dude.